The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burning metal. The battlefield was silent now, except for the distant crackle of fires. Human soldier Ethan Cross stood among the wreckage, his chest rising and falling heavily. His armor was dented, covered in dust, and his hands trembled from exhaustion. The war had been long, brutal, and merciless. The ground was littered with the remains of both machines and soldiers, human and alien alike. He looked around for any signs of life. Most of his unit was gone. The Alliance forces had fallen back, leaving only him and whoever had survived the last wave. His earpiece crackled with static, but no voices came through. For the first time, Ethan felt the weight of true silence and the kind that follows death. Then he heard it, a faint sound, like metal scraping against stone. His instincts kicked in, and he raised his rifle, scanning the ruins. The sound came again, weaker this time. He moved toward it, careful but desperate. When he reached the source, his eyes widened. Lying among the debris was Corinne, the alien warrior queen of the Trell Empire. Her silver armor was cracked and sparking with blue energy. She was taller than him, powerful even in her fallen state. He had seen her lead armies, her voice strong and commanding, her strength unmatched. But now she looked fragile, broken. Her breathing was shallow and her golden eyes flickered faintly beneath her cracked visor. "Karen," Ethan whispered, kneeling beside her. "You're alive." Her head turned slightly and she looked at him with hazy eyes. "Human," she whispered. "You—" "Still stand, barely," he said with a weak smile. "You took quite the hit back there." She tried to push herself up, but her arms gave out and she groaned in pain. Ethan quickly caught her, steadying her before she could fall again. Her armor was hot to the touch, pulsing with faint energy. She was bleeding, not red but blue, and it shimmered faintly in the dim light. "Don't move," Ethan said softly. "You're hurt badly." "Let me help." Her lips tightened. "You would help your enemy?" Ethan shook his head. "You stopped being my enemy when you saved my squad. I don't leave allies behind." She stared at him for a long moment, then gave a small, tired nod. "Do what you must, human, but hurry. The core of my armor is damaged. If it overloads—" "I know," Ethan said, already examining the plates along her torso. "It'll explode. I've seen what Tyrell armor does when it loses containment." He pulled out his tools, his fingers shaking. The armor wasn't just metal, it was alive, breathing with energy, almost like a second skin. He could see how the plates were fused together from the blast. There were access panels, but they were burned shut. "I need to take this off," he said carefully. "Otherwise, the energy will burn through your body." Her voice trembled, though she tried to keep it steady. "Then, do it quickly." Ethan took a deep breath and pressed the first release node. A hum vibrated through her armor and she winced in pain. He hesitated, unsure if he was causing more harm than good. "It's okay," she said softly. "Continue." The metal loosened slightly. He worked carefully, lifting one piece at a time. The armor responded to his touch, glowing faintly where his fingers brushed it. It almost seemed to recognize him. Beneath the metal, her skin was a smooth shade of silver blue, marked by deep scars, the kind that told stories of battles long before this one. Ethan's heart ached as he worked. This warrior, once feared across galaxies, was now helpless before him, yet she didn't resist. She trusted him. When he removed the final piece from her shoulder, she shivered and whispered weakly. "Careful, it's connected near my ribs. I've got you," he said gently. "Just a little more." Her golden eyes softened as she watched him. No words were spoken for a while. Only the sound of his careful hands, the hum of failing armor, and the quiet rhythm of two survivors trying to keep hope alive. When he finally looked up, sweat running down his face, he said softly, "You're safe now." Corinne gave a faint, weary smile. "No one has ever said that to me before, human." Ethan looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Her gaze drifted toward the dark sky. "A queen does not get saved. She only fights until she falls." Ethan's hand rested lightly on her shoulder. "Then maybe it's time someone broke that rule." For the first time in her long life, the great warrior queen felt something she couldn't describe. Not pain, not fear, but warmth. A strange human warmth, and under the burning ruins of a lost world, a fragile bond began to form between two warriors from different stars. The night grew colder as the flames of the battlefield faded into dying embers. Ethan knelt beside Corinne, his hands trembling slightly as he worked to remove the rest of her damaged armor. Her breathing had slowed, but her eyes stayed open, glowing faintly like twin suns dimming in the distance. Her armor was a living thing, humming softly, reacting to his touch. Each section was fused together from the explosion, and the energy core still flickered dangerously near her ribs. Ethan knew he had to work fast, but also gently. One mistake could end her life. He found another release node near her side and pressed it. The armor hissed, the metal plates shifting slightly. Corinne gasped and her body tensed. Her voice came out low and shaky. "Slow down. It's very sensitive there, human." Ethan froze instantly. His eyes widened and he pulled his hands back. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Karen exhaled slowly, her chest rising and falling. "It's not pain," she said quietly. "It's difficult to explain. The armor is connected to my body. When you touch it, I feel it, like it's a part of me." Ethan nodded slowly, understanding dawning on his face. "Then I'll be careful." He worked slower this time, watching her reactions with every movement. His fingertips brushed the edge of the armor on her hips. The metal was warm, almost alive, and when it detached, a faint blue light glowed beneath it, the color of her skin, smooth and luminous. Corinne's voice softened. "You have steady hands for someone so young." Ethan gave a faint smile. "War teaches you not to shake." She looked at him, studying his human face, his tired eyes, his worn-down armor that was barely holding together. "You risked your life to save me," she said softly. "Even though I am not of your kind. Because you saved mine," he said simply. "I owe you that much." For a moment, silence filled the air again. The only sound was the distant hum of dying machines and the soft rhythm of her breathing. Ethan's fingers kept working, loosening another plate from her abdomen. He was careful, moving with precision and respect. Each piece that came off revealed more of her, not just her body, but her scars. Some were deep and old, carved by weapons or beasts he couldn't imagine. Others were faint, almost healed, but still visible reminders of battles she had survived. Ethan paused, looking at them quietly. "You've been through a lot," he murmured. Corinne followed his gaze. "Every scar is a memory," she said. "Each one reminds me of a time I almost fell." "But didn't," he smiled slightly. "Humans have scars too. We just hide them better." She turned her head toward him. "You hide too much, human. Your heart, it burns bright, but you bury it under fear." Her words struck him deeper than she knew. He didn't reply, only continued his work in silence. As he removed the last heavy section of armor from her side, she winced but didn't pull away. "Almost done?" Ethan whispered. "You're doing great." Her golden eyes softened at his tone. "You speak to me as if I were one of your wounded soldiers." He met her gaze. "You are. You're part of this fight just like us." A strange warmth filled her chest and something unfamiliar, almost comforting. Her people didn't speak like this. To them, care was weakness, emotion was distraction. But this human's gentleness made her realize how empty her victories had been before. When the final piece of armor came off, Ethan sat back and wiped the sweat from his brow. The dim blue light from her exposed skin made the air around them shimmer faintly. She was beautiful in a way he couldn't describe, fierce, strong, yet delicate beneath all that metal. Corinne looked down at herself, then back at him. "No one has ever seen me like this," she said quietly. "Not even my own soldiers." Ethan blinked, unsure how to respond. "Then I'm honored, I guess." She gave a small, tired smile. "Do not jest, human. To touch a Tyrell's armor is sacred. To remove it is to be trusted completely." Ethan's voice softened. "Then trust goes both ways. I'll make sure you live." Her eyes lingered on him a moment longer before she closed them, her breathing evening out. The worst of the danger was over for now. The energy core stabilized and her body began to recover. Ethan leaned back against the wall, exhaustion pulling at him. The cold wind swept through the ruins, carrying with it the ashes of war. But beside him, for the first time, there was peace. As the night stretched on, Ethan found himself watching the alien queen sleep. The armor that once made her untouchable now lay scattered around them, lifeless and broken. And in its place was something far stronger, trust born in the middle of destruction. He whispered softly, almost to himself. "You're safe now, Karen. I'll keep it that way." Outside, the first light of dawn began to touch the horizon, painting the ruined battlefield gold. And for the first time in many years, the warrior queen of Tyrell rested, not as a commander, not as a weapon, but as some eon finally seen beneath the armor. When the first light of dawn touched the ruined battlefield, Ethan woke to the soft hum of the alien queen's breathing. Karin was still resting beside him, wrapped in his survival blanket, her armor scattered in pieces around them like fallen stars. Her skin shimmered faintly in the morning light, smooth and silvery blue. She looked peaceful now, far from the fierce and proud warrior he had known in battle. Ethan rubbed his tired eyes and sat quietly, watching her. There was something strange about the way he felt, protective, almost tender. He had seen many wounded soldiers before, but none had affected him like this. Maybe it was because Karin wasn't just another fighter. She was strength, pride, and loneliness all wrapped into one being. After a few moments, her golden eyes opened. She looked at him with the faintest smile. "You did not sleep, human?" "Not really," Ethan said softly. "Didn't want to take my eyes off the Queen of Terrell." Her lips curved slightly. "You humans always have a way of turning danger into flattery." He chuckled. "Guilty as charged." She tried to sit up, and Ethan quickly helped her, adjusting the blanket around her shoulders. Her wounds were healing slowly. The blue light under her skin pulsed softly, showing signs of recovery. But she still looked weak. Karin looked around the destroyed landscape, her expression distant. "So much death," she murmured. "So many of my soldiers gone." Again, Ethan glanced at her. "You've lost many battles like this?" "Too many," she said, her voice low. "Since I was old enough to hold a blade. Every victory cost us more lives than it was worth. But we fought because that is all we were taught to do." Her tone carried no bitterness, only quiet sadness. Ethan felt his chest tighten. "And you? What did you fight for?" She turned her gaze toward him. "For my people. For honor. For a promise I made long ago." "What promise?" he asked gently. Karin hesitated. Her eyes softened, and for the first time Ethan saw something in them. Pain hidden behind strength. "When I became queen," she said slowly, "I swore to protect my people no matter the cost, even if it meant losing myself." Ethan stayed silent. He didn't want to interrupt. She continued, her voice trembling slightly. "I thought power meant control, that if I became strong enough, I could stop the suffering. But all I did was build walls, around myself, around my heart." Ethan looked at her with quiet sympathy. "And now those walls are falling." Karin's gaze flickered toward him. "Perhaps," she whispered. "You broke through them, human. You touched what no one has dared to touch." He blinked, confused. "You mean your armor?" She shook her head faintly. "Not just that." Silence filled the space between them. The soft wind carried the faint smell of ash and metal. Ethan didn't know what to say. He had fought countless battles, but this one, this quiet moment, felt heavier than all of them. Karin looked down at her hands. "Do you know why our armor is alive, human?" she asked softly. Ethan frowned. "Alive?" She nodded. "It grows with us. It binds to our nerves, our thoughts, our hearts. When a Terrell warrior bonds with her armor, it becomes part of her soul. To remove it is to expose one's spirit." Ethan's eyes widened slightly. "Then Yes," she said quietly. "You saw me as no one else ever has." The realization hit him like a wave. What he had done, removing her armor to save her, was more than a medical act. It was sacred, intimate, a sign of ultimate trust. Karin's voice trembled as she continued. "You could have taken my life with a single mistake, yet you handled me with care." "Why?" Ethan met her gaze, his voice steady but soft. "Because I didn't see a weapon. I saw someone worth saving." Her golden eyes shimmered as if holding back tears. Terrell queens didn't cry. It was forbidden, a sign of weakness. Yet for a moment she felt close to it. "You are strange, human," she whispered. "Your kind brings destruction, and yet somehow you bring peace." He smiled faintly. "Guess we're full of surprises." Karin looked away, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe that's why the stars favor your species. You fight not just with strength, but with heart." Ethan felt something shift inside him, a deep, quiet respect for her. She wasn't just a warrior. She was someone trapped by duty, desperate to remember what it meant to feel alive. As the sun climbed higher, Ethan stood and looked at the horizon. "We should find shelter." "You still need rest." Karin looked at him and nodded. "Lead the way, human, I will follow." For the first time, her voice carried no command and only trust. And as they walked side by side through the ruins, Ethan realized something profound. Beneath all the armor, pride, and pain, she was just like him, searching for something worth living for. By the time the sun dipped below the smoky horizon, Ethan and Karine had found shelter inside the remains of a crashed shuttle. Its walls were cracked, the lights flickering weakly, but it was enough to keep them safe from the cold winds outside. Ethan sealed a broken hatch with a piece of metal and then turned to her. Karen sat against the wall, her body still weak from her wounds. The faint blue glow under her skin flickered in rhythm with her heartbeat. She looked tired, but her eyes stayed sharp, observing him as he moved around the small space. Ethan set down his pack and pulled out a small emergency heater. When he turned it on, soft warmth filled the air. He offered her a canteen of water. "Here, you need to drink." She took it slowly, her fingers brushing against his hand. Her touch was cool, almost electric. "You are prepared for everything," she said softly. "Comes with the job," he replied, forcing a small smile. "Humans aren't built to last long out here, so we plan for every disaster." Karine studied him quietly. "Yet even with all your plans, you still fight wars you cannot win." He sighed and sat across from her. "Maybe that's what makes us human. We keep fighting anyway." The firelight danced across her face, reflecting in her golden eyes. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't empty, it was calm, almost peaceful. Outside, thunder rumbled faintly, but inside the small shelter there was only warmth and quiet breathing. Karine broke the silence first. "Human, why did you really stay behind for me?" Ethan looked up at her. "Because you were alive. Because I couldn't just walk away." Her brow furrowed. "You risked your life for someone not of your kind. I do not understand this human logic." He shrugged slightly. "Maybe it's not logic. Maybe it's just heart." Karine tilted her head, watching him. "Heart, that is your strength and your weakness, isn't it?" Ethan chuckled softly. "Yeah, it gets us in trouble most of the time." She leaned back against the wall, her voice quieter now. "On my world, heart is seen as distraction. A true warrior is taught to silence it. Does that work?" Ethan asked gently. She paused before answering. "No," she admitted. "It only makes the silence louder." He nodded slowly, understanding the weight behind her words. "Maybe that's why you fight so hard," he said softly. "Because you've been carrying that silence for too long." Her eyes softened. "You speak as if you know me." "I don't," he said. "But I want to." For a moment, the great warrior queen had no reply. No soldier had ever spoken to her like this, without fear, without rank, without duty. Just truth. Ethan looked around the shuttle, searching for something to distract himself. "You know," he said lightly, "I used to think all aliens were heartless machines. You've proved me wrong." Karen smiled faintly, the first real smile he'd seen from her. "And I used to think humans were reckless children playing with fire. You proved me wrong as well." They both laughed softly, the sound strange and warm in the ruined ship. For a few precious minutes there was no war, no blood, no duty, just two beings trying to understand each other. The heater hummed softly as night deepened. Ethan leaned back, exhaustion pulling at him. Karen watched him in silence, noticing how his head tilted slightly when he dozed off. He looked peaceful despite everything. She whispered to herself, "Strange creature. You risk your life, you carry pain, and yet you still smile." Ethan stirred, opening one eye. "Talking about me?" She blinked, slightly embarrassed. "Perhaps," he smiled sleepily. "You know, Karen, you're not as scary as you look." She raised an eyebrow, amused. "Careful, human, I might take that as an insult." He chuckled softly, his voice fading as he drifted toward sleep. "It's a compliment." "I think." Karen looked at him for a long time. There was something about this human. Something that felt different from every other warrior she had known. His kindness disarmed her more than any weapon ever could. As the storm outside raged through the night, Karine reached out and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Her touch was light, almost hesitant, but it carried meaning. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a queen or a weapon. She felt safe. She whispered softly, "Rest well, Ethan Cross, you have earned my trust." Outside, the sky cracked with thunder, but inside the broken shuttle, peace lived quietly between a human soldier and an alien queen, two hearts finding warmth in a world that had forgotten what peace felt like. The next morning came with a strange stillness. The sky above the ruined battlefield was gray, covered with thick clouds. The air was cold and heavy with the smell of burned metal. Ethan woke first, stretching his sore arms as he looked around the broken shuttle. Corinne was already awake, sitting near the open hatch and watching the horizon in silence. Her golden eyes reflected the weak sunlight. She looked stronger now. Her wounds had healed slightly and her body glowed faintly beneath the thin layer of alien skin. Still, Ethan could tell she was far from recovered. "Morning," he said softly, his voice rough from sleep. Corinne turned to him. "Your rest was short, human." "Couldn't sleep much," he replied with a tired smile. "Old habit. Soldiers never sleep well when the world's this quiet." She looked at him curiously. "Why? Peace should bring rest." Ethan shook his head. "Peace after battle never feels like peace. It feels like a storm waiting to happen." As if the universe itself heard his words, the ground trembled suddenly. A distant rumble echoed across the field, followed by a faint screeching sound that made the walls of the shuttle vibrate. Corinne's expression hardened instantly. "They're not gone," she said, standing up. Ethan grabbed his rifle, checking the power cell. "The invaders?" She nodded. "They always return. They hunt until there's nothing left to kill." The screeching grew louder, closer. Through the broken window, Ethan saw black shapes moving across the ashes. Insect-like machines crawling fast, their eyes glowing red. There were dozens of them. "Maybe hundreds, damn it," Ethan muttered, loading another magazine. "We can't take that many." Karen reached for her sword, a long, curved weapon of silver light. Her movements were slower than before, but her eyes burned with fire. "Then we die as warriors." Ethan grabbed her arm firmly. "No, we survive." She stared at him. "You would run?" "I'd rather live to fight another day than die for nothing." Her jaw tightened. The queen inside her wanted to fight, to die with honor if needed. But when she looked at him, the human who had saved her, who had treated her like something more than a weapon, she hesitated. "Very well," she said finally. "We fight your way." Ethan peeked outside. The machines were closing in fast. "We'll draw them away from the shuttle. Then we move toward the canyon. Its walls might block their sensors." Karen nodded. "Lead and I'll cover." They moved quickly through the debris. The air filled with the high-pitched sound of energy weapons charging. Ethan fired the first shot, hitting the lead machine square in the head. It exploded in a burst of sparks. Corinne followed with her sword, slicing through two more in a single, graceful motion. Their teamwork was perfect. Every time Ethan reloaded, Corinne stepped forward, blocking incoming fire. Every time she staggered, Ethan's rifle covered her. They fought like they had known each other for years. Two warriors, two worlds, one rhythm. "Left side." Ethan shouted. Corinne spun, slashing through another wave. Blue sparks lit the air like fireflies. "You fight well, human." She called over the noise. "Guess I had a good teacher," he shouted back, smiling despite the chaos. But the swarm kept coming. A blast hit near them, throwing Ethan to the ground. His rifle skidded away. Pain shot through his shoulder. Karen turned sharply, her eyes blazing. "Ethan!" she cried out. Without hesitation, she leapt between him and the enemy, taking the next hit on her armorless body. The impact threw her backward, but she stayed standing, gripping her sword tightly. Ethan struggled to his feet. "Karen, fall back!" She shook her head. "No, I will not leave you." Her voice carried something raw, not just loyalty, but fear. She moved faster, cutting down the last few attackers with a burst of strength that seemed impossible for someone so wounded. When the last machine fell, silence returned. Only the sound of their heavy breathing filled the air. The field around them was covered in smoking wreckage. Ethan dropped his rifle and rushed to her. "You're hurt again," he said, catching her as she fell to her knees. Blue blood trickled from her shoulder. She looked up at him weakly. "You risked yourself for me again." He smiled faintly. "Seems like a bad habit now." Corinne's lips curved into a tired, soft smile. "You humans never learn when to stop caring." He pressed a hand to her wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "And you aliens never learn when to let someone help." Their eyes met, human brown and alien gold. And in that single glance, the world around them seemed to fade. The war, the pain, the fear, and it all disappeared, leaving only the quiet understanding between two souls who refused to give up on each other. Corinne whispered, "If I fall, promise me you'll live." Ethan's voice broke slightly. "Not without you." She closed her eyes, resting her head against his shoulder. "Then we live together, or not at all." Outside, the wind swept across the ruins, carrying away the ashes of battle. Inside that storm, a human soldier held an alien queen close, both too stubborn to surrender, and too bound by something deeper than duty to ever let go. The sun was setting behind the shattered hills, painting the sky in colors of red and gold. The battlefield that once roared with death was now quiet. Smoke rose gently from the broken machines, and the only sound was the slow breathing of two survivors. Ethan sat beside Kyrene, his arm wrapped around her shoulders. Her wounds were deep, but she was still alive, barely. Every time she exhaled, her chest shuddered, and the glow beneath her skin dimmed a little more. "Stay with me," he whispered, pressing a hand to her wound. "We're almost safe. You hear me?" Karen looked at him, her eyes half open. "Safe," she repeated softly, as if testing the word. "Humans, you always hope for safety, even when surrounded by death," he smiled weakly. "It's what keeps us going." For a while they sat in silence, watching the sky darken. The wind carried the faint scent of rain. In that fading light, Ethan could see how tired she truly was. Her once strong body trembled with every movement, and her sword lay forgotten beside her. Finally, Karen broke the silence. "When I was crowned queen, they told me I must never show weakness. I must never cry, never trust, never love. A queen must be stone." She turned her gaze to him. "But you, human, you made me forget how to be stone." Ethan blinked, his throat tight. "Karen," she smiled faintly, "I used to think your kind were small, fragile things. Always talking, always feeling. But now I see that is your strength. You feel more than any species I've known. You fight not because you must, but because you care." Ethan brushed a lock of her silver hair back from her face. "And you? You fight because it's all you've ever known. But you care too, Karen. You cared enough to protect me." Her voice trembled. "I did not protect you for duty." She reached up weakly, her fingers touching his face. "I protected you because I could not bear to see you fall." The words hung between them, soft but heavy. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air felt warm despite the coming night. Ethan felt his heart pounding, not from fear but from something deeper. "I should have said this before," he whispered. "But I care about you too. More than I shew." Her eyes shimmered. "Then we are both fools," she said gently. Ethan gave a shaky laugh. "Yeah, maybe. But I'd rather be a fool with you than a hero without you." Karen smiled, but her strength was fading fast. Her hand slipped from his face and fell into his lap. Ethan caught it quickly, gripping it tight. "Don't you dare give up now," he said, voice breaking. "You're not dying here. Not like this." Her eyelids fluttered. "If this is the end, I am glad it is with you." "No," he said fiercely. "You'll see your stars again. I'll make sure of it." Just then, a bright light cut through the clouds above. A ship, large, metallic, and familiar, descended from the sky. Ethan shielded his eyes. It wasn't an enemy craft. It was human. "Rescue team," he said in disbelief. "They found us." Karen looked up weakly, her vision blurring. "Your people," she whispered. "They came for you." "For us," Ethan corrected. "They're taking both of us home." The ship landed nearby, kicking up dust and smoke. Medics rushed out, shouting his name. Ethan lifted Karen carefully into his arms, ignoring the pain in his own shoulder. "She's hurt," he shouted. "Get her inside now." The medics hesitated for a moment, seeing the alien queen in his arms. But one look at Ethan's desperate eyes made them move fast. Together, they carried her aboard. As they rose into the sky, Karen's head rested against Ethan's chest. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Ethan, yeah?" he said, holding her tighter. "If I live, promise me something. Anything. Do not let them fear me. Show them that I am not their enemy." He swallowed hard. "I promise." Her eyes closed and she exhaled slowly. "Then, I can rest." Ethan looked out the window as the battlefield disappeared beneath them. For the first time, he saw hope in the distance, fragile, shining, real. He didn't know if Karen would survive. He didn't know what the humans would say when they learned who she was. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He would fight the entire galaxy again if it meant saving her. As the stars appeared in the darkening sky, he whispered softly, "You're not alone anymore, Karen. Not while I'm breathing." And somewhere in that silent space between worlds, her faint smile was all the answer he needed. The humming sound of engines filled the quiet medical bay. Ethan sat beside Karen's bed, his hand resting gently over hers. Her body was still covered with faint silver marks where her armor had once been, Machines around her beeped softly, keeping rhythm with her slow heartbeat. It had been 2 days since the rescue. 2 long days of waiting, hoping, praying. He hadn't slept much. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her falling again. The blast, the blood, her whisper of "if I live," echoing in his mind. Now he watched her chest rise and fall, counting every breath like it was the most precious sound in the universe. The door slid open. Captain Reeves, his superior officer, stepped inside with a grim look. "Sergeant Cross," he said quietly, "we need to talk." Ethan didn't move. "If it's about Corinne, you can say it here." The captain frowned. "She's not human, Ethan. You brought an alien queen onto a human ship. Command wants answers. They think she might be dangerous." Ethan stood, eyes sharp. "She saved my life twice. If she wanted us dead, she could have killed me back on the battlefield." Reeves sighed. "Maybe, but orders are orders. Until command decides, she's to be kept under guard. No contact." Ethan clenched his fists. "You can't just treat her like a threat." "She is a threat whether you believe it or not," Reeves replied firmly. "But I'll give you 1 more hour. After that, security takes over." He left, leaving Ethan alone again. The hour felt like the shortest of his life. He turned back to Corinne, brushing her hair gently. "They don't understand you," he whispered. "They don't see what I see." As if hearing him, Corinne's eyes fluttered open. The golden glow returned, soft but alive. Ethan froze for a moment before leaning forward. "Karen," he breathed, his heart racing. "You're awake." Her lips curved slightly. "You look tired, human." He laughed, tears welling in his eyes. "You almost died, and that's the first thing you say?" She smiled faintly. "You humans worry too much." Ethan took her hand again, gripping it tightly. "They don't trust you. They think you're dangerous." Corinne looked around at the clean white room. "Your people fear what they do not know. Mine were the same. What will you do?" he asked softly. She was silent for a long moment, then turned her eyes toward him. "When I return to my world, I will tell my people what I learned here. That humanity is not weak but strong in ways we never understood. I will tell them that you fight not for power but for love." His chest ached with emotion. "You're not going back alone. I'm coming with you." Karen shook her head slowly. "No, Ethan, your people need you here. You are their voice, the one who can make them see us differently." He looked down, struggling to hold back tears. "Then how do I let you go?" She reached up, touching his face with trembling fingers. "You don't. You carry me with you in every breath, every choice." The door opened again. 2 soldiers entered quietly. "Sir," one said, "we have orders to escort the alien to containment." Ethan's jaw tightened. Karen looked at him calmly. "It's all right," she said softly. "Let them." He stepped forward. "Wait, if you take her, I go too." The soldiers exchanged uncertain looks. Finally, one nodded. "Fine, but only until command reviews the case." As they walked down the corridor, humans stopped and stared. Some whispered in fear, others in curiosity. Karen held her head high, regal even in weakness. Ethan walked beside her, never letting go of her hand. At the containment room, they paused. She turned to him, her eyes glowing warmly. "You kept your promise, Ethan. You showed them I was not their enemy." He swallowed hard. "And you showed me that even across stars, hearts can still find each other." She smiled, a soft, beautiful smile that lit her entire face. "Then perhaps there is hope for both our kinds." The soldiers stepped back respectfully. The door began to close between them. Ethan pressed his palm against the glass, and Karen mirrored it on the other side. "Through the glass?" he whispered. "This isn't goodbye." Her voice, faint but sure, replied, "No, only distance." As the door sealed, Ethan stood there watching her fade from view. His heart felt heavy yet alive. For the first time in his life, he truly believed in something greater than war, greater than fear, the simple, unstoppable power of connection. And as the stars shone through the viewport above, he whispered softly to himself, "She changed everything." Somewhere beyond those same stars, Karen looked out from her own ship and whispered in her language, "Until we meet again, human." In that silent space between 2 worlds, 2 hearts beat with the same promise, that someday, somehow, they would find each other once more.